Find yourself a booth, order up a cold one. This is the Spring Bar.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Spring Bar. Glad to have you here. I am Florida Mike. I'm here with my co-host, Joe in the OC. I don't have anything funny to say about you today, for once.
Shocking.
I know.
Shocking.
I am disappointed in myself. Believe me.
Must be what's in your glass. It's gotta be.
Yeah.
That's got to be the problem.
I know. I am boozeless today. But in any case, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm all right. I'm all right. I was very booze full yesterday, and so I will be filling with booze, but not quite so much today.
Okay, continuing the streak.
Hair of the dog and all that.
Yeah.
For lack of anything better.
I'm just coming off a 60-hour work week, so I didn't feel like going out of my way to the liquor store to get something for today. I just wanted to get home. So
That's hardcore. That's a bit much.
And I know in the pre-recording, you asked me if there was nothing on my way between work and my house, and there is all kinds of stuff as I'm whizzing down the highway. But when I get off the exit, there's just houses to where I live. So I'd have to drive past it, and I would start crying if I drove past my house.
You have to take that up with the powers that be. As I understand it, you might have some bones to pick there. So
yeah, well, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Inside jokes. It's wonderful.
So we have a special guest this evening with us.
We do. We have a special guest. It's our friend Watches with Oliver. He is a very solid Caravelle collector. So we're hoping that he's going to be able to make it in here real quick.
Oliver, where are you?
Hey!
There he is.
Like magic.
Surprise.
Welcome.
And so just for everybody else's knowledge, the OC Marathon was today. Oliver's a California guy. And the OC Marathon was today. And Oliver, you ran that in what time?
20. So we ran 26 miles in 4 hours and 35 minutes.
Jeez. No, thank you. My legs are sore just thinking about that.
Right? But here he is. He's present. He's ready to go. So
I was so excited that it made me run faster to be here with you guys.
see, motivation.
So let's get into it.
What do we got?
Some wrist checks. And it's customary around here that our guest of honor gets to go first. Actually, before we start, I'd like to point out that he has what appears to be the most comfortable spring bar seat in the house this evening.
True.
I'm a little jealous of him there. It's a nice, plush, comfy couch he's sitting on for those of us that aren't watching.
Well, he needs that kind of cushioning for, the legs are
True. That's true. We'll give it to him. So, all right, Oliver, why don't you lead us off? Tell us what you got on your wrist and what you're drinking this evening.
So, well, we can start with what I'm drinking. I'm just drinking coconut water.
There it is.
Totally boozeless.
There are important things, and that would be one of them. So, what's on the wrist, man?
So I have got a transistorized Caravelle.
Ooh.
On a leather strap. Yeah, it's from 72.
Nice. Okay, what did you wear a watch when you ran?
No, I didn't.
No. So not even like a Garmin or anything that would be.
No.
Is that typical for you, or was that special for today?
Well, I used to run with a Garmin,
and
I've been running without a watch lately, just running off of feel. So
right,
it's different,
but pure.
Yeah, you're not as stressed. I'd say, because you're always glancing at the time,
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, it worked for you because you did a better time. So
yeah,
onto something. For all you marathon nuts, take note.
Well, you do your walks every day, Joe. So are you constantly watching the time and saying, oh gosh, I have this much more to go? See, now if you follow Oliver's advice and don't wear a watch while you're walking.
I don't pay attention to it at all. I just
and it saves you time because you don't do wrist shots either.
True. True. You're right.
Uh,
You're right. It's safer for everyone.
yeah. So
All
what
right,
about you,
Mike.
Joe? What do you got?
I've got my Caravelle Dual Day Setomatic with the stadium bezel and the Lexan hour markers and the
Oh, there you go.
busted loom and the beautiful strap
That's
of the
this the Tropic
strap.
Rally on there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's also a 666 dial, correct?
It is a 666 style. You are correct.
I'm surprised you didn't
With that
mention that.
beautiful lollipop hand too.
Yeah, that's nice.
I'm a fan. And so in the glass, I have the Spagliato. Allow me.
Sbagliato.
A
Pretty
little bit
good.
of practice there.
Pretty good.
It is a Negroni with champagne on top of it because.
So that's an actual drink and not just a Joe concoction.
Sbagliato.
All right. Who are we to argue with the Italians?
What do you got, Mike?
So I am wearing my 1973 Caravelle AQ. This is a beautiful, beautiful flat gray dial with a wonderful use of the color red. Red in the seconds hands, red in the markers, red in the hour and minute hands. It's just phenomenal. It's a fan favorite. Every time I post this one on Instagram, people go crazy for it. So I figured in honor of our special Caravelle guest today, this is the one that I'm putting on the wrist. And because I am boozeless today, I am drinking coffee.
Coffee.
It'll help me stay awake during this recording.
Coffee.
Yeah, this is the Donut Shop medium roast, and I throw a little cinnamon in there with some whipped cream, and we got ourselves a nice cup of Joe.
There you go.
Oh wow, I don't even know what to say, man. It pains me. Hurts a little bit, just in here, a little bit.
Oh yeah, well,
Get a tear. Pour
it is
one
what
out
it
for
is.
you.
Yeah,
Might
thanks.
have to have
Yeah.
two now.
So we kind of got ahead of ourselves. New watch alerts. Anybody got something new?
No.
Okay.
All I have is a case. Not even case back. Just dial, but the bezel. Bezel is probably 90%. So
You just tell me you ordered that? That one came already?
yeah, it came quick. It came really,
Wow.
really quick. So 90%, it's in real good shape, and so this will replace one that I've already got coming back from service. I'll be picking it up next week, so I should be okay. That's going to make that watch closer to 100%.
So what are you going to do with the case and the crystal? Are you going to save them, or are you going to try and just move them on?
Probably. I gotta do a dive into it and see what the case number is, so I can see if the crystal is useful for anything else. But I just don't know. I mean, it's hard to say when it comes to Bulova. Hashtag Bulova.
Yeah, exactly. Oliver, you got anything new that you want to talk about? Anything you want to share?
No, you know what? Nothing new yet. I did order something, another transistorized
Oh, okay.
movement watch type of thing, but that hasn't come in yet. So
No, okay.
maybe on the next run. I don't know if it works, but I kind of tinker with them to make sure they work. So who knows?
Well, we
I've
won't
had,
ask you.
oh, and I've had a conversation with Oliver about this because he is able to find these things. They're not expensive. I mean, they're
No.
it's. I mean, we're under $100.
Under
Yeah.
50.
Yeah.
I usually I don't even think I've done 80, honestly. They're dirt cheap. Like nobody wants them.
No,
Well, I
but
think it's because
Except me.
people are afraid of them. I think, really. And to be honest with you, for as much as I know about watches and vintage watches, I don't even want to touch one either.
there's some truth to that.
Yeah.
People, I mean, they rather just have reliable quartz that just works, or just the mechanical, right? But this
Yeah.
whole hybrid thing, jewelers don't want to work on them. They don't want to touch them.
Yeah.
Well, most of them can't. So that's even a whole separate issue. You got anything coming in, Mike?
I well, not coming in, but I have something. I
Ooh,
have. Remember we talked about it last time. The Jetstar F that has the rare
the
handset and
handset.
dial. Yeah.
Wow.
So I have this one, and it's definitely seen some better days. Although I started to polish it up a little bit, and a lot of the tarnishing on the gold plating is coming off. So I might be able to refinish this one to make it halfway decent for resale. Crystal's got a huge crack in it. There's nothing I can do about that, but it does have that rare handset,
Mm.
the marshmallow hands with the wider hour and minute hands. And I also noticed too that the dial is slightly different in that at the end of the hour markers, there is a tiny little loom plot, which
Mm.
is not on the other dial as well. So I think we're going to do a full dial and handset swap into the nicer case and
Is it a
the
different year?
Is that
well, I don't know. I'm going to have to do a deep dive into it because this case back is not marked. So I
Oh,
couldn't tell you. There is
hmm.
no date
no
code
year
on
on it
here.
at all.
Yeah, nothing. And it could be it was at one point. It's just so worn down
Right.
because even some of the engravings on here, like the stainless steel says stained steel at this point because it's so worn out you can't even hardly read it. So um,
It's a
I
well
am
loved
going to
watch.
say that it was just the 1 year, and there was for whatever reason that variation. But the only time you see this handset and dial is in certain advertising and in the line book. I've
Yep.
never seen it like an actual photo of it with this handset on there. So
So maybe a pre-production dial, or maybe even a early.
maybe an early version. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure about it. I know a lot about Jetstars, but I don't claim to know it all.
Hashtag Bulova.
Oh, and you know what else I got into? And I don't have it here. I just remembered. I bought a ladies version, kind of matching to my Jetstar, the silver dial with the Breguet numerals. I have a little 22 millimeter ladies version that I ordered for my girl, scrolling through eBay, and she says, "Oh, look, that's your watch." I said, "Well, no." I said, "It's similar to it, but it's a woman's version, smaller." She's like, "Well, can I have it?" Click buy it now. Absolutely, you can.
Yes, you can.
Who
Yes,
am
you
I to
can.
say no? So that
Awesome.
came in. It runs a little fast and it needs some cleaning up. So a little bit of a adjustment and some of the 120 clicks magic, and you got yourself a nice little piece.
Nice.
As my phone is going off, I forgot to silence that. Now we're good. So yeah, so that's what I've got.
All right. Well, let's start our conversation here. So, Oliver, let's discuss your collecting journey, for lack of a better term, because I know some of the pieces that you've got. I've seen some of them. We've talked about it. So, share with our massive, massive viewing audience and listening audience. Are you a collector or are you an enthusiast?
That's a interesting question because I started basically as an enthusiast, um, kind of just seeing what piques my interest, and then you start going on that journey of deeper diving, a rabbit hole, so to speak, right? And it's just you start discovering things that you like, that you don't like, and then it kind of guides you on that direction, and then I think you kind of just end up being a collector at some point. Um, I think I'm both, an enthusiast and a collector. I think the enthusiast part started that off, and then it's transitioning into like a collection, right? Like that you just don't know because again, it's like this rabbit hole. You're just like, oh, what's that? What's this? You're just,
Hmm.
especially with these transistorized pieces, like they're just um, they're there. They're not so much of a dime a dozen, but at the same time, they're there and they're fairly inexpensive. And I think it's a forgotten part of watch history.
Oh,
Um,
without question, without
Hmm.
yeah.
question. And it's I don't even like forgotten part, definitely unknown. And it seems that like, it was even just kind of a blip too, because you're looking at the quartz crisis, and okay, let's try something different, and how can we? And then it's like, nope, it's going to be all just a straight quartz and that cheap plastic,
Mm-hmm.
no jewels, no nothing. So,
Mm-hmm.
how long have you been collecting though?
I'd have to say it probably started 2019. It was a fairly recent thing. Just one day I started just looking at Caravelles, and I just remember my uncle having the box, like it was a '90s box, where it said Caravelle by Bulova, and I just remember that name just stuck out, and then went on eBay, just started, searching and typing things, and
Oh, that's kind of cool, though.
So was that when you started collecting watches, or when you started collecting the Caravelles? Had you been into watches prior to 2019?
prior to 2019, yes.
Okay.
I think so. This stems like back in high school, or high school, but before that, middle school actually.
Hmm.
So, truthfully, it started when I went through my dad's stuff in the garage, and I opened this pouch, and it had like watchmaking tools, and it had a few watches in there too. And one was there was quite a collection actually. There was one Radu, one Seiko. So the Radu and Seiko I still have, and two vintage Rolexes.
Oh, wow.
The vintage Rolexes I don't have, and that I regret.
Oh, no.
Yeah. It was
What
just
were
a
they?
simple. It was
Do you
just a
remember what they were?
simple. Yeah, no, it was just a simple wind up precision and the oyster date. Nothing fancy or anything. Had a riveted bracelet, and they were probably
This is getting worse and worse.
yeah. It was the date code was like 1954, 55.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't have those anymore.
Oh no.
So yeah, but that's it started then, and then obviously life happened, and then I was growing up and kind of just like went to the side, and then I started to think, oh, what if I tried revisiting that again? And so that's where I'm at now.
So, do you remember? So, obviously, your watch history goes back a ways. You remember your first piece? You remember your first watch?
I I have a picture of it. I was going to go to storage and look for it, but I didn't. But it was a digital watch. And it had a fish on it, and it was like a leather strap. I still have it somewhere. It probably doesn't work, but I think I still have it somewhere.
Oh, that's
in
awesome.
storage.
That's even better. That's even better.
'cause
That's great.
I have a picture of it when I was 3, and you can see it on my wrist. It was
Oh,
a
no
digital
kidding,
watch.
really?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's
and it had
great.
a fish on it,
How
and
how that has not been an Instagram post yet?
Right?
I need to find it. But once I do, you guys will see it. 'Cause
That's
there's a
real.
yellow
That's
fish
too
on
good.
it, and
Yeah.
That is so
that's
good.
how that started. Oh yeah, and I remember my mom was telling me stories about uh, like people thought I was like older because like
Because
he
you
already
had a watch.
had a watch. Yeah, it's like, oh, he has a watch on. It's like, oh my god, yeah, it was a digital watch. I think my mom gave that to me though, but my mom and grandma. But yeah, that was my very first watch when I was 3.
That's awesome though. That's
Very
awesome. So when we're talking about style of watches, so you've got the vintage pieces that are the heirloom pieces, you've got the family pieces, and then obviously the Caravelle and the transistorized stuff. What else do you like to collect? What else is your kind of it's like, ooh, buy it now.
I have fairly been just loyal to Caravelle. I can't really pinpoint
feel
what
that.
it is.
I understand you.
I can't pinpoint what it is, but it's just a brand that's always stood out to me, even though I think the brand itself is relatively, I don't want to say unknown, but it's kind of, not as big, obviously, as its bigger, brother Bulova, right? And
It's such an interesting little niche brand too, because you talk
Yeah.
about Caravelle and people like that. Because I remember there was a watch that I bought kind of sight unseen, and it was a Caravelle branded watch, but it turns out that wasn't a Caravelle watch. That was the
That
name
weird
of the
French
watch.
thing.
That weird French
Oh,
diver,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I got it, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is. It's ticking off a bunch of the boxes, but it's not right. And
It wasn't a Caravelle. It was a Caravale.
right, something like that.
Yeah.
And so it's you start taking a look at what Caravelle offers and what's available. But the vintage stuff, man, it's so good. It's
Well,
so
speaking
good.
of vintage, you have on your Instagram a beautiful looking, I believe it's an Omega Constellation quartz. Do you still
Yes.
have that one?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, I still do.
That's a gorgeous one. I like that one a
That
lot.
funny note, I think that's also another forgotten part of Omega. That was like the transition before the Manhattan constellation, with the claws
Yeah,
on the side.
yeah. That
But
dual on the edge of the
right. But the whole integrated bracelet and stuff, that was like the predecessor. But I can't really find much, like what time frame, maybe 2 or 3 years, maybe.
Yeah, the documentation
From what I found, it's
because Rolex did a similar thing with the president.
Right. With the oyster
it was
quartz.
the quartz, yeah,
Oyster
and it was,
quartz,
Mhm.
yeah.
yeah, it was just the quartz for that, and so like they were
Right.
going off of sort of the Genta thing as well. Those are really nice. I like those.
So I got a question for you, Joe. I know you're a bit of a quartz snob.
I am.
Okay.
I am.
Rolex Oyster Quartz. Would you wear it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'd wear that. I'd wear a deadbeat second in a heartbeat. Sure.
Yeah.
Because the
All right.
quartz watches that I have, it's not so much that I'm a quartz snob, but I'm definitely a movement snob.
Mm.
And so Bulova's got the 2242, or and it's one of the old original quartz movements, but it's like a 9 jewel with a gear train and other part, and it's like, okay, you can fix it. It's repairable. Parts are available. It's like, yeah, get me there. I'm satisfied with that. You look at some of the Seiko quartz stuff that's on their high end quartz off
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
the Prestige line, and even the Grand Seiko. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I could do that.
So you're okay with the Grand Seiko 9F, but you're totally against the Miyota 6S21 that's in the surfboard reissue.
I'm not against it. I've got one. I wear it.
Okay.
Do I prefer it to this? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't even know what's in this. What's it say? Swiss. Yeah,
It's a Swiss. Oh,
it's a Swiss.
imagine
version of
that.
this one. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. All right. So now this is my favorite question.
It
And the
is,
reason this is my favorite
because-
question is because I think I know the answer, and this is
Oh,
really
boy.
good. So this is the burning house watch. In the event, Oliver, that your house catches on fire,
what is the watch? That
what
you would
watch
go
will
back
you?
for?
Oh,
And it's
man.
great because he is, I think, probably the reason why we have this question when we do interviews. So
You are right.
answer
You're
that one
absolutely
for
right.
us.
Yes.
I mean, speaking from experience. Oh man. Okay, but okay, I'll have to think of it. Well,
No, you can talk about it. When your house caught on fire, did you grab any watches as you ran out the door?
you know what? I didn't.
There it is.
I did not grab any. So I grabbed my keys, my cell phone, and my wallet. Those are the 3 things I got. The
But
watches, yeah.
miraculously, though, your watches did survive, and there was one in particular that you had told a story about.
Yeah. So I was actually during that trying to be a firefighter, which unless you go to school for that and stuff, don't bother. I did. I was wearing this Caravelle automatic. I could probably take a picture of it eventually, but this watch right
I
here,
do love that watch.
I had on my wrist while I was basically putting water in buckets and trying to
A
put
one-man
the fire
bucket
out.
brigade.
Yeah. And believe me, that does not work. That just creates much more smoke. And it was just, yeah. But the watch came out unscathed, and it was hot. Like you could, I'm surprised this leather band didn't get crisped or anything. It's still intact.
Get some
It
charring
was,
on it, right?
yeah, it was pretty hot. Now, sub watches that did get burned, I was able to clean up. It was basically like my mom's Citizen quartz that I had given her. and she had this old Seiko that her brother gave her when she came to the U.S. I was able to clean that up and put a new battery, and those work. Those were more in the fire per se than my watches.
And that's the story I think that connected you and I together. Is you had reached out to me and said, hey, I've seen that you do some casework here and there. What are your methods to restoring some of these? Because you were looking to clean up those watches for you. I remember they were for your mom too, and that was fantastic.
Right. Yeah, because
so
there's a bunch of
if you have pictures of those, I'd like to put those up too, so we can kind of see a before and after of what it looks like.
Nice.
Yeah. No, I do have some pictures of that, so I can give them to you.
That's fantastic. All right, so let's talk future generations, heirloom pieces. What do you got? Other than, of course, the Rado and the.
Yeah. What are you going to pass down?
Pass down. Well, probably the Datejust.
Yeah.
That's definitely something. It's funny because I have the Datejust, and it's just I feel like it's not mine.
Oh, really?
Honestly, like I just
no. I'm sorry. That's Patek advertising. You're mixing your brands right there.
I must be right. You're saving it for the next generation, right? Yeah, but so it's interesting because looking at luxury pieces and seeing how the pricing has increased and stuff, and people still continue to buy, and I'm thinking in my head, in a way, you're I don't know, renting it for a lifetime in a way.
There's one way to look at it.
It's interesting because you pay X amount, and then obviously that's something you're going to pass down, and that'll have value, and so forth. But it's funny because it's just I have it, but I just never really think that it's mine because
I understand that because I've got pieces that I've got my father's watch, I've got my grandfather's watch, I've got my great grandfather's watch, and then I think we've actually got some older pieces too. My dad has them someplace. He's got some pocket watches, but I know for a fact that my dad has a Hoyer Viceroy Octavia that he sent in the box tops from Viceroy and paid $88 for, one owner watch, and he's had it serviced, and it's legit, it's documented. And that watch will go to my son. It's I'm not even going to touch it. It's it's going to go right to him. And I get that. And I don't know that my dad feels necessarily the same way, but I know I do. It's okay, that's, and it's also the kind of thing that when he's old enough and that watch goes to him, it's all right, listen, you never sell this. If you feel the need to sell this, you let me know and I will buy it from you, because this is not, and I'll give it back to you later, but this one doesn't go anywhere. This is for your kids, so hang on to it. It's that kind of thing. I get that.
I have one too. That Rado Diastar. And that's the only watch that I've ever had passed down to me, and not from a family member, but it comes from my girlfriend's father. He gave it to me as kind of like a welcome to the family type of thing. And I know exactly what you mean, because I never refer to it as my watch. It is not my Rado. It's in my watch box. But I always say, I'm going to put your dad's watch on. Or she'll ask me, oh, why don't you, where's my dad's watch at? It's always referred to as that.
Right.
And never of anything as my own. Even though he gave it to me, I am just, like you said, just kind of the caretaker of it in the moment until it goes to whoever it goes to next, whether it goes to, my daughter, or if it goes to maybe one of the younger kids back on their side of the family again, I don't know, but I get that feeling, and it's a weird feeling, but it's cool at the same time, knowing that you're just caring for it,
watching over it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Now the transistorized, these are mine. I don't want to give the trouble to my kids of taking care of it,
4,000 years they're going to unearth your grave and try to understand what are all the, he must have been a very important man. Look at all of these indicators. And each one of the hands are in a different place. It must be some primitive timekeeping device, and these must all indicate significant life moments. Right? A specific watch for that moment. Oh, what an important king. So
Yeah, they don't need that trouble with that time frame.
So when you're talking about, like pieces for yourself and you're buying something for yourself, I mean, obviously, okay, if it says Caravelle on the dial, then it's a must buy. I get that. But what is your process for what it is that you like to buy?
So, I mean, since pretty much my only main experience has been with Caravelle. Now, to me, Caravelle is such a fun brand. They have
That's so true, though.
watches that go like that evoke emotion. Like, oh, that's a awesome looking watch, or oh, that's hideous. Why would they bother making that?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and I get that. I have transistorized that are just like, what are you thinking? But and that's what
That's
makes
why
it
you
fun.
buy them.
And that's why I buy them. Yeah, it's like the same, right? You don't buy an Italian car for what it does. You buy it because of the emotion that evokes out of you, right?
Yeah,
They're not
very, very
reliable.
true.
They're
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
but
Fix
they
it
have
again,
soul.
Tony. Right. Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
That's what the 70s did in watchmaking. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and I'll continue to say it. That was the heyday of watch design. I mean, people were thinking out of the box. The color usage was there. It was just fantastic, and the way they just
See, I
they
don't know. I think that maybe the late 50s, early 60s is kind of a pinnacle of watch design.
and yeah. So you and I are a little different on that.
Well,
But
and I
70s,
I don't disagree with you that 70s watches are fantastic, and I own a few, and I love them to death. But the 70s stuff is a lot more. It's like, okay, throw it against the wall and see if it sticks. Does it
that's
work?
what I like about it. It's because they're so wet. It's just they pulled from here, they pulled from here, they pulled from there, and they just mashed it together. And you have either like Oliver said, you either love it or you hate it. And even if you
Right.
hate it, you love it because it's just the ugly
right.
duckling.
Yeah.
And now the late 50s and 60s are very Art Deco. And if you're into that architectural style design, that's the perfect era for you. And I get that, and I love it. I see a lot of those pieces from that era, and I think, wow, I'd like to have that, but I would never wear it. So I
Really? No?
kind of stay out of that era. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because they're typically coming from that era, it's much more dress watchy styling. And I don't have that many places that I require a dress watch for. So that's why I stick with the 70s, because you can use it in so many different situations.
As a hammer.
Well, I suggest you don't, but I suppose if you were in a pinch, you could.
Okay, so moving on. This is a personal question, and Oliver, we've spoken about this a little bit before. Size of the dial, size of the case, size of the watch, and I know that you tend to lean a little small when it comes to some of that stuff. But what, like, what's your parameter? What's your outside? And what's your what's the smallest watch you have? What's the biggest watch you have?
So interesting you asked it, because the biggest watch I think is the Bulova Lunar Pilot.
Right.
I think that one's what, 42?
Those are 46, I think,
something
right?
like that.
45,
Yeah.
46.
It's up there.
45, something. It's up there, right? So that's my biggest one that I've got. It definitely looks big on my wrist. I think my wrist is less than 6.
No kidding.
Around.
Yeah,
I think
really.
so. It's small. So ideally, I have watches from, I think, probably 29. I think 29 to 45.
I got them all.
They're all there.
They
Yeah.
all work for me.
They're all there. I think it's not so much the diameter of the watch, but the lug to lug part of it.
You know what? It comes down to that so often, and it's such a huge factor that a lot of people don't really they don't bring it up. They don't think about it. So, okay, how do the lugs sit? How does the strap sit off of the end of the lugs? You know, does it come out? Does it straight down?
Right.
What, you know, and it makes a huge
Right.
difference. And I know that the Lunar Pilot, it doesn't sit on my wrist well. I can't really wear it. It's not comfortable, and it wears large for me. I know, Mike, you just tried one on.
I try. So let me ask you this question: what's your wrist size, Joe?
7.
Do you know what it is? Yours is a 7.
Uh-huh.
Mine's 7 1/4. So we're not that far. I love the way it sits on my wrist.
Yeah, I know, and I've seen the one for when Oliver puts his on, and it looks fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that where I am comfortable wearing my watch, and the way that my wrist bones sit, it just doesn't lay right.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that comes down to that's less about the watch and much more about my anatomy. And unless I'm going to go have cosmetic surgery to have parts of my ulna shaved down, it's like I don't
Do it for the watch fam.
do it for the right. You know, it's like the ultimate vanity procedure.
Do it for the gram. That's what it is.
Nice.
Do it for the
Grab,
gram.
there you go.
Brazilian
So, Oliver,
butt
I'm gonna
lift
ask
and
you-
ulna shaving.
Yeah. Oliver, you have a Caravelle Quartz deep sea diver. So where does that one? What's the diameter of that one?
That
You know?
one I think is 37, maybe.
Oh, it's that
36 or
small.
37. It's
Okay.
small.
It's
Yeah,
a chunky
it's
one
not-
Yeah, it's
It's-
nice though.
Good. It
It's,
is though. It's nice. Yeah.
It has a small dial because
Mhm.
of the bezel that takes up most of the outer space. But in comparison to like the date just, they're almost the same size. It's probably a 37. I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
37.
I
Yeah.
would have thought it was a much larger than that, but
No.
that looks fantastic.
And there's another one though, and you just brought this up. I wasn't even aware that you had it. That you've got a Caravelle railroad dial,
Yes.
and like so that's like an enamel dial. But what's the diameter of that too?
It's
36,
called
37?
34.
Oh,
Looks like
is
it's
it
a
that? It's
34.
that small? No kidding.
Yeah.
That's such a cool one though, dude.
Yeah,
That
it's a
really
34.
is.
It's the only one that I've seen with that railroad from Caravelle.
I don't
that
think
I've
I've never seen one. Like until you pointed it out, I wasn't aware that it existed. And again,
Oh.
this kind of goes into this whole Caravelle discussion that the watches, the styling of Caravelle is so not quite unique, but it's well done. There are pieces that they have got that I would hold up to anybody else. The finishing on the dial, it's not world class, but it's more than functional. I mean, it's aesthetic. There's a beauty to it. The application of the numerals, the dial finishes.
Especially when you think that Caravelle was billed as the cheaper alternative, and you look at some of these watches, and it's like, how did you come up with that? Because these are just as good, if not better than many watches from that era. Some of them, like you say, some of them not so much, but others, I mean, if you look into the catalog deep enough, you find some fantastic stuff.
Well, you've got that jump hour, right?
Mm-hmm. The
And
Digitron.
The Digitron.
That's the
it's in the
actual
line.
name is the Digitron. I love it.
And it's a ladies' piece too, but what is it? It's like 34, and it sits fantastic.
Yeah, I love that little thing.
And then you and I, we both have that ladies 333
Mm-hmm.
with that tri-colored bezel, and it's what
It's just so well made, that tiny little watch.
20 millimeters, maybe. I mean, it's
a
smaller than
little
a
bit
dime.
bigger
It's
than that. Yeah.
tiny.
Well, no, you're probably right. 20 millimeters.
It's
probably.
tiny, but it's so legible. It's so well done. And they
Yeah.
took
Just, like even this Caravelle AQ, right? It's a Swiss AS2066 movement. No, I take that back. This is the I forget the reference number. This is has the
Mike's
push.
pulling
and
out his
push the
watch
crown
idiot
in.
savant card here.
Yeah. If you look at it, and I mean, if you look at the paint on the dial is perfect. It's laid very well. The applied markers, everything lines up just right. I mean, it's so beautiful. And I'd have to look at the line book, but these things were selling for what, $25 back then.
Yeah. I mean, it was
Yeah.
nothing.
Right.
Like 36, I think, is about as high as some of the dive watches went. I mean, it's just ridiculous in what the prices were.
Yeah.
And it comes down to that it was supposed to be this budget line right? That was sort of the space that they were supposed to occupy. However, it's like, okay, and it was a budget line, and it was supposed to be Japanese movements, but there are Swiss movements like this. I've got a Swiss movement in here, Swiss automatic. There's West German movements that are funky.
Those are fantastic movements, though. I love mine.
It's great, and you know the date set is weird and.
Mm-hmm. You know the jump hour is a West German movement.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Both versions, the smaller and the larger versions are both jump out West German.
It's just
and they wind so well and they run so well. I have no issues with them whatsoever.
No, I think that like the watches that, and this is kind of a difference. Like, you know, Oliver, your collection, your watches are all in really, really good shape. Mm-hmm. Which is it's kind of a testament to your buying prowess, without question. Like, you know, you're cherry picking some of the really, and you're doing this sort of deep dive. The Caravelles that I've got, it's not the same at all. Mine are
that brings
some of mine are in real rough shape.
Yeah, that brings up a question for you, Oliver. So, are the transistorized Caravelles, are you finding they're mostly stainless cases or they're chrome plated cases?
Ooh. They're more chrome plated. There are some stainless ones, but
so
more
how
of them
do you
are
find so many nice chrome plated cases?
You know, that I don't know, because you would think most of these chrome, you know, plating is like fading off or you know, chipping off or what have you, but you know, they're not, I wouldn't say they're in great shape, but, you know, clean them up, polish the crystal, the dial, right? The dial is the most important thing out of these ones too.
What happened was the battery died and somebody opened it up to change it and they got too scared looking at the innards and just like, and put it in a drawer, and it's been preserved ever since.
Yeah, probably.
Sitting in there with that staple puller and some old rubber bands.
It's foreign to a lot of people, you know. It's and I think that's why I love it, because it, you know, maybe it can bring awareness that it, you know, 10 years probably that these things really were, you know, in that time period. I'm not talking about Caravelle, just the whole transistorized, you know, stuff in general.
It wasn't a long run at all, because you know, when it's like Accutron, because when you start, you know, you look at the Accutron line and it just got too expensive to produce, and the quartz just be getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. Because but the Seiko Astron, when it first came out, I think it was a solid gold case, and that it was a massively expensive watch. I mean, James Bond had a freaking Pulsar in Moonraker or something like that, you know. So you know, we're talking, it was high end, pinnacle horology at the time, and now it's like, all right, you can get it in a Happy Meal, and it's more accurate with a little minion face on it, or you know, whatever. No offense to Konstantin Zayak, but you know, minions and the digital. I'm just saying. All right, so
Konstantin Chaikin took it a step further.
Granted, the only watch stuff, yes, you get your money's worth from him without question, but still, minion watch.
Yeah. So one more question too for him, being that this is the episode of questions, kind of transitioning away from the movements. Let's talk about bracelets. And in particular, stretch bracelets, because I have been told that you know how to size stretch bracelets.
This is my guy.
If you have a way of kind of describing that process, how do you size a stretch bracelet?
You know, it's funny because the stretch bracelet, you know, I think it's been frowned upon a lot.
It has been.
But
if you compare the hair pattern between these two wrists, there's a lot more over here.
That definitely was one of the big issues with them, was that, definitely. I always hear from, you know, people of yesteryear. That's what they would always say. Oh yeah, my grandfather would say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
To me, though, I don't know. They represent a period in time of watches where that was commonplace and that was popular, and it just seems to fit the Art Deco, like you mentioned, of these.
It was, I mean, it was the newest, the greatest thing. So my great grandfather's watch was on a stretch bracelet, on a spiral stretch bracelet, and it was, I mean, everybody had to have one. You don't have to strap it; it goes on over your wrist. Oh, this is But that President that I've got, one of the Curvex, which is it's on an older sort of a ladder style, and it spreads differently versus like Speedo, which is the straight. Those are the hair pullers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, the technology has tweaked a little bit, but like something that Oliver and I bonded on. I bought a bunch. I bought like a bargain lot, eBay, $11, 25 bracelets, and I needed one. I was like, okay, cool. I'll pay $25 to get the one that I need. Now I've got 12 others that I don't need. And he was like, yeah, I'll take them. Like, really? It's like, oh yeah, I know how to size them. Like, really? We need to talk.
So how do you do it?
Yeah, what's the process?
So there's basically like these. I don't know how to explain it because you have to like you have to like unfold these tabs at the end of the bracelets, like on the edge, right? You have to unfold them, and then there's like these little clips in there that you essentially remove, and that's what breaks apart the bracelet. And then so you would do that with the other link, remove that, and then put them back together again, and then refold the edges.
So it's essentially like the edges are functioning as the pins in a standard bracelet.
Right.
Close to it. Okay.
So
right, and then you fold them back.
Right.
I know what flaps you're referring to, the ends of the bracelet. So how, in something so small and in such a sharp 90-degree angle, do you unfold that and then refold it and not have them break?
I've had some break because they could only handle so much.
One at a time. So you have a spare.
Yeah.
So you get a stretch bracelet, you size it to fit your wrist. How long does it take you to do one bracelet, start to finish?
Probably like 15 minutes.
Oh, that quick. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's not long. I mean, as long as you know how, the length of it, removing the pieces in it and then taking it apart and putting it back together, probably 15 minutes.
Because I could take it apart, and it would probably take me 30 to 45 minutes to find the springs that fell on the floor after they come flying out of there. And then after I couldn't find it, I'd put a paper clip in there and call it a day.
That's why we call it the Spring Bar Podcast, because we've lost too many spring bars.
So many
carpets are they're gone.
Actually, speaking of losing parts, I lost. Remember, I told you, I said, "Hey Joe, I need some movement parts." One of which is the rotor clip screw, because I unscrewed it and it just went ding, and it's somewhere in a crack of my hardwood floors.
Oh man!
See, look, I've got carpet, which means it's gone. Like I can try to look for it with a magnet.
Well, that's what I did. I got down on my hands and knees with a magnet, and it never came up, so I have no idea where it went.
When I was growing up, we had this carpet that was this is 70s like mid-pile shag, which was orange, brown, black, and gold. It was the most amazing carpet, and if you had like Star Wars guns or Lego pieces, they were gone. You could spill mustard on this carpet, and there was no problem. It's like it showed no stains ever. It was the most amazing carpet. So when you start talking to me about things falling down, I was like, that's where I go.
Hey, right, when I was growing up, I had green shag carpet in my bedroom as a kid.
Oh, this was in the whole house, man. I mean, it wasn't just it wasn't exclusive. It was wall to wall, hardcore. Yep. So, Oliver, this is kind of our fun question. Me personally,
Here we go again.
What's
I know where this is going.
you know exactly where this is going. So what's your pet peeve? What's your horological pet peeve? For me, leather on divers. It's a problem. I'm taking injections. I've got tablets, and I'm seeing a therapist. But
I'm
what
his
do you got?
therapist.
So you got me thinking on that, right? Because we've talked about this before.
I bring it up all the time. It's like a tick.
What if that someone, quote unquote, diver, right? If on the dial it does not have like a depth rating, right? But it has a timing bezel, right?
Mhm.
But there's no mention of diving or diver or a depth rating.
So you're saying it's a dive style watch,
Sure. Yeah, like
Not
there's a
even-
timing bezel.
not even a water resistant watch. So you're asking me like a Speedmaster.
Sure.
Speedmaster doesn't bother me. I'm okay with that happening on Speedmaster, and also on my my Accutron Astronaut, which it's got the rotating bezel. It's a 24-hour bezel because of the GMT hand, but it does. I'm okay with leather on that, even though I have it on a small coffin link.
But like, so he's not talking Speedmaster. Speedmaster's not a dive style watch. with a dive
Exactly.
bezel.
Exactly.
I think what he's saying is, if you have a dive style watch with a dive bezel, but it doesn't have a depth rating, will you put leather on that?
Why would I have that watch if it doesn't say 666 on the dial? I'm not keeping it. What's the point? Why are you asking me this question?
So remember a while back, I had that Caravelle, I guess, dive style, because there's no depth rating. It's not a screw down crown.
Right.
There's a date on it.
Yes.
It does have a timing bezel.
Yes.
But as for diving, it really isn't like a 333 or 666.
Correct.
None of that.
Right.
Right.
Didn't have any of those things on it. None of those markings.
Right. But a leather strap on that does look nice.
Listen, Oliver. I agree with you. I've got no problem with it.
This is not a democracy. You guys don't get to vote on this. It's not how this works.
As of this recording, it's 2 against 1, Joe. I don't know what to tell you. You're going to have to change your ways now.
Nope. This is my line in the sand.
Hey, resistance is futile, man. You're gonna blend one way or another, okay?
Well, at least in our strap episode, you admitted that you're shooting yourself in the foot by having this.
I will admit, it does limit my options without question. And that you can get a nice vintage style leather strap, or you can get a nice rally style strap, or you can do a lot of different things. And I've seen 666 dial watches on leather straps, and it just makes my heart hurt. It really does.
You can buy a brand new diver when it comes from the factory with a leather strap.
And they're wrong.
Well, we need to have a conversation with their R&D department, their marketing department.
I would be happy to.
Because I think, now, watches are more, not so much tool-like as they used to be.
Correct.
While you're getting these, variations of divers and leather straps, and can you go swimming in it? Yeah, you wouldn't recommend it. Obviously the leather wouldn't hold up. But again, it's more of like marketing style, just for the sake of it looks nice. And are most people going to go down 666 feet?
No.
Yeah.
Probably not.
No. Well, this is the part that gets me. I'm always amazed by this, because the Accutron 666, the deep seas, the deep sea A, B, no screw down crown on any of them.
You're just supposed to trust science.
Yes, you are.
What?
Yes, you are. And It's just the gasket, that simple little gasket, is going to keep the water out of that tuning fork mechanism, which you know is not going to end well for anybody. And yet,
So
they put it on the dial, man. It was there.
let me throw this one at you too. So we're talking the Bull of a Surfboard reissue a little while ago. That has a screw down crown, but chronograph pushers.
Yes.
So what's the point of having a screw down crown at that point?
Who knows? Who knows? Which is why I don't have it on leather.
But I'm with you, Oliver, especially when it comes to vintage divers. You're never going to put them in the water. It's highly unrecommended that you do. So I'm okay with putting a diver on a leather because you get so many more options of being able to make it look so nice.
You do. That's true. But a pet peeve, though, even though if it is a vintage watch, like, why wouldn't you put it in water if it was originally designed for it?
Oh.
I subject all my watches to water, whatever. You know, it did it then, it should do it now. If not, then you replace the gasket. That's just my take on it. But just because it's old doesn't mean that you can't put it in water or anything.
And so,
oh my God!
I know, right? He's so much smarter than we are.
Wow! That's huge!
I've seen interviews of people who collect say vintage Rolexes, and they have them tested on a regular basis, so that way they can wear them and dive with them. I think with something like that, where you have gaskets that are still readily available for those particular cases, when you get into the weird niche kind of stuff like the Caravelle 666s or the water resistant whatever X, Y, or Z when it comes to Caravelle or Bulova, those gaskets that you need to replace in order for it to keep up that water resistance rating are just so long gone that you can't even replace them anymore.
Well, no,
trust that original one? I don't.
Yeah, this is the thing. You can replace them. You just got to be clever. Because the gaskets aren't available, but that diameter tubing is. So you can replace it. You've got to find. And I've talked to guys, and they've had this. I was like, oh yeah, I've replaced the gasket on the back of the Accutron 214 movement. I'm like, you did what? Oh, I got this special straw that I've developed out of an old piece of aqueduct tubing, and I sharpened it on the edges, and I take this tubing from a such and such whatever aquarium, and I slice it really, really thin with a Chinese cleaver, and I take that little and I put it up, and I'm like, you.
Okay, so
huh?
Do you trust that though? Would you say that works?
At which point he's like, well, I pressure tested it and went down to like 1,000 meters. I'm like,
yeah,
I guess that's a lot, man. I'm mildly obsessive, and I'm not that obsessive.
Would you regasket your Oceanographer V and take it in the pool?
No!
You feel comfortable with that?
No! That's why I got the reissue. I can take that when it's getting wet. It's still under warranty. I'm good.
And I've often had the thought, and I would love to do it, to have that done, have it regasketed, and be able to wear a vintage diver for what it was meant to do. I think that would be, just imagine the pictures you would get from that.
You know what? So I took that first 666 that I got, and I took that up to George, and we pressure tested the case, and it held. It's like, okay, so if I have the crown screwed down right, it's a 1980s watch, mechanical, I can get it wet.
It pressure tested to what depth?
50 meters, 100
enough.
meters. It's like, it's not bad.
Yeah.
That's Speedmaster territory,
right? But even still, it's like, okay, all right. So that means that I can wash my hands. I'm good. Which COVID, it was nice, but that's why I have the quartz watches. I can go get wet with those. It's fine.
My Oceanographer L. I washed my hands one day. Washed my hands, and the crystal fogged up.
Yep. Fool.
666 diver.
666 diver. All right. So Oliver, how can we find you on Instagram?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Watches with Oliver. I've still got a lot of pictures to post up. I just need to find the time for them. But It was great talking with you, Joe, and about watches and opening up Caravelle to the
Oh,
world.
I love it. I love it. I think this has been so much fun. This has been so much fun. Mike, where are you at?
I am 120 clicks, all spelled out one word. 120 clicks. Joe.
I am Watch Taylor Youth, TAYLORPEUPH at Instagram, and then you can also reach us at the Spring Bar Podcast at gmail.com if you want to shoot us an email, or you can hashtag us at the Spring Bar Podcast. We would love to see any watch shots that you've got, any hippo straps that you've got. If you've got a diver on leather, we're going to ban you and you won't show up anywhere at all.
Joe won't like your picture, but Oliver and
I will not.
We'll like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, we're always looking for watch meetups or anything else that you want to help promote, because we're all about that, and we're trying to bring the watch fam together and do our little bit of the part that we can. And update a little bit on our auction from the last episode. We raised, what was it, 117, 120?
So all said and done, the total amount, so with Bulva's contribution and what we had for the auction, it was $487, I think it was.
Back up, because our contribution was about 120, something like that. It was 117, and then taxes and everything else, and there was some little extra from shipping. But Bulva got wind of our little bit and decided that they said that they would match any donation up to $350. And since we didn't hit 350, they donated 350 anyway. So cheers to Bulva.
That's
Absolutely,
awesome.
Bulva, for helping out the World Central.
That's awesome.
It was a really cool moment, and just to be able to say that, okay, we're fans of the brand, but it's really nice to know that they are paying attention to what it is that we do and what it is that the rest of the watch fam does, and we're willing to help support this little effort that we're going. It was a really nice moment, and it made me feel personally great to be supporting the brand in the way that I do. And I know that, Mike, I'm sure you feel kind of the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And for those naysayers who like to say that Bulva, or any watch brand for that matter, doesn't listen to the collector, well, here's proof that they really do. They pay attention. They know what's going on out there. And so love to see what they got coming out next.
Soon. Hashtag
Yep.
soon.
All right, gentlemen, this has been a blast. I've had a lot of fun. Until next time.
Same here.
Thank you, sir. See you
Cheers.
guys.
Thanks, guys.